To the program, we're talking about the world's billionaires and their contribution to philanthropic causes, as well as their influence on the political process. Joining us to discuss this is Darrell West, who has written a book about billionaires. He joins us from the Brookings Institution here in Washington, D.C. Also joining the panel is Mykolas Rambus, CEO of WealthX. He joins us from Detroit, and Armand Arton, who joins us from Dubai. He is the co-founder of Global Citizen Foundation. Thanks again to all of you for being with us. Mykolas, your company, WealthX, found that the U.S. has the largest number of millionaires, and they're followed by China and then the United Kingdom. Do we have any indication of what percentage of their wealth they donate to philanthropic causes?
So on average, billionaires, right, $1 billion US and above, give $25 million over the course of their lifetime to charitable causes. So that's an average. Some, of course, give lots more. Some, of course, are part of the Giving Pledge. But that's a relatively small percentage of the overall wealth. Noting, again, that a lot of folks are just beginning to get to the phase in their life where they're thinking about those big gifts. I think we'll see more blockbusters coming up.
Darrell, should the world's wealthy do more to close the wealth gap? We hear a lot of that these days about closing the wealth gap. In fact, it might become a major issue in the upcoming presidential political campaign here in the United States. And as you pointed out at the outset of the program, that people outside the United States think that, you know, the rest of the world's after their wealth, and yet people in the United States think that, well, they should be giving money. But if you read the media in the United States, you think that the wealthy are always being targeted here in the United States. Should they do something about closing that wealth gap, spreading the wealth?
They should do more to close the wealth gap, because I'm always reminded of the example of Henry Ford. He was asked why he paid his workers twice the going rate. And he said, hey, this is not about altruism. I need customers for my cars. And so I think what today's wealthy people have to keep in mind is it's very much in their interest to have a strong middle class, to maintain patterns of upward mobility in terms of economics, people from poor backgrounds who can get a good education and then go on and do good things. It helps each country as a whole, and it also builds long-term economic prosperity.
Armand, what kind of philanthropic work would you like to see more of? What's not being done right now?
Well, I think you touched previously the fishing and the giving part is that the best way is to teach somebody to fish instead of giving him the fish. And in this part of the world, a lot of the things that we see, it's exactly this. From microfinancing, which gives the opportunity of starting companies and being able to provide on a much smaller case than, you know, providing with donations for food or clothes. So we believe that microfinancing is one of the best ways as well in providing the less fortunate with the means and the tools to make their own living and realize their own dreams.
That is interesting. Darrell, have you come across that in the United States where big donors are saying, well, look, let's encourage people to start their own businesses, make their way on their own way, you know, with this kind of microfinancing model?
A lot of wealthy individuals are very entrepreneurial. I mean, 2/3 of them are self-made, so, you know, they're not individuals who just inherited a fortune, but they often started out from modest means or a middle-class background, had an idea, and were able to build a substantial business out of that. And so they, having done that themselves, a lot of them like to encourage others to do the same thing. So they've been big proponents of entrepreneurial activity. They see that both in the United States as well as in the developing world as a great way to build prosperity for a wide range of countries.
And the fact that a lot of them come from these modest backgrounds, does that perhaps explain why we see a lot of money going to educational projects, Darrell?
Absolutely. I mean, many of the billionaires who I know are big believers in education, in part because that's how they were able to do so well in the world, that they got a great education, they had good ideas, and then they were able to build wealth out of that. They want to make sure that others have exactly the same opportunities. So they've invested their money in charter schools, in education technology, in other ideas that they think will transform the world of education and create more opportunities for a wide range of people.
Mykolas, when we look at the world's wealthy, are Asia's wealthy, for instance, very different from North America's wealthy or Europe's wealthy? I mean, do they have different priorities when it comes to who they give to, what causes they give to?
Yeah, surprisingly, billionaires are very similar across the world. Education by far, almost by a factor of 2, is the top cause that billionaires give to. And that's consistent, again, everywhere around the world. After that, it's social causes, healthcare, sciences, and the rest. But it really is about education. Much as I think Carnegie wrote in his book, Gospel of Wealth, he invested substantially in libraries because he believed that same concept, and it hasn't changed in 150 years.
Armand, what do you make of the argument made by some people that charity perpetuates poverty? It creates a permanent underclass.
Well, I think that charity in the way of selecting of how to give back is the main reason why poverty can continue or be completely taken away from the face of the world. We haven't been very successful, and I think even though charity exists for many centuries in different formats, we still have billions of people living under poverty. And Global Citizen Movement, which is founded by Hugh Evans, is trying to get to the masses in order to sensibilize everybody on the topic of poverty and how it can be completely removed from our everyday life. But I believe that we haven't been that successful as in technology or other parts of the advanced world that we live in.
All right, Darrell, if we look at a profile of billionaires, say here in the United States, when we have the established billionaires, people, old money as it's called, then we have this new wave of billionaires, you know, the internet billionaires, people like Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. Is there a major difference in the way they donate money, in the way that, you know, the causes that they want to champion?
The people who made their money from information technology, by and large, are under the age of 40, and so they have wealth at a much earlier age than has been true in past generations. A lot of them are change agents in how they want to use their money. They firmly believe in the power of disruptive technology, so they're bringing that type of mentality to their philanthropy. So a lot of them are pursuing ideas that other people might find out of the box. You know, we had the mention about space travel. There are a lot of billionaires who are fascinated by space, think that there's opportunities for space mining and space tourism. And so I think we're seeing them pursue a wider range of ideas and a wider range of approaches than what we saw from the older wealthy people.
Right, Mykolas, and to that point, some say the diversity of causes that are funded by billionaires, at least in the United States, it's a good thing, it's a positive thing. It makes for a very robust democracy. Do you agree?
I do. There's certainly a lot of causes that are well worthy of the funds that are out there. And again, it's a place where you know, the U.S. government simply doesn't go. So whether it's in fundamental sciences, for example, you know, whether it's in certain kinds of medical research, it's great to have these funds flowing, but there's a greater opportunity that's still forthcoming in the capital that can be deployed to these causes.
Armand, looking at other parts of the world, you know, we see a lot of billionaires who run for political office. I mean, one thinks of Silvio Berlusconi in Italy, Petro Poroshenko in Ukraine. Is this a positive thing for societies in other parts of the world where billionaires are running the show?
I wouldn't be the right expert to answer this question. However, in the nearest places, we have seen more of a failed attempt to do so by billionaires. Example of Thailand is one of them. Ukraine is another, where billionaires are trying to run the governments the way they run their multi-billion-dollar companies. In some countries that might work, where democracy prevails. In others, populations don't like it. And of course, Australia and other, like you mentioned, Italy are countries where we have seen the power of money in media in politics can be very dangerous too.
Darrell, there is a perception, and there might be some truth to this, that the rich in the United States donate their money to people outside the United States, mainly in developing countries, to people in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and neglect the poor in the United States. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think that's really true because there are a number of billionaires who have put a lot of money into fighting poverty in the United States as well as around the world. You know, a lot of their investments in education is designed to help people from modest means advance themselves and do well. But a number of these individuals also have focused on global poverty. The Gates Foundation, for example, is very close to eradicating polio. You know, if we can do that, that would be a tremendous accomplishment. So I see these individuals, you know, trying to help the disadvantaged in a variety of places, both in the United States as well as around the world.